There's a gentleman that we all know and love, and who is not going to be on the clock tonight because we got 20 extra minutes. So. And that's a wonderful, illustrious Patrick McGrady. Thank you all.
Okay, so as we have some extra time, and this was not planned for today, I think we're going to try something new right now. And then I have some updates and stuff for you guys about what's going on statewide and since the 4th of July. Somebody from this side of the room, tell me, in terms of your life, what is important to you today that is on your mind? Somebody raise your hand, tell me. Anybody? Jeremy?
Freedom.
Freedom. Why?
Because I like to do whatever I can do without impeding on somebody else's liberty.
Very good, very good. Now, more specifically, is anybody concerned about something going on right now in their lives directly related to their family and the interaction with government? Or can you think of something in your life, right, that's a good thing that's not related to government? Yes, you can. Think about it. Something you're thankful for. Yes.
Be a grandfather.
Going to be a grandfather. Now, where I'm going with this is I want people to be thinking about, we come together and we talk about a lot of crises. You know, we're always thinking about something that's bad, something that's impending, something that's going to kill us. You know, it's going to put us out of business. It's going to wreck us. And I think that very often we forget the good things that are happening in our lives that we could do without the role of government. So now with that further introduction, somebody else. Over here maybe.
My vegetable garden. Since I got laid off 2 years ago, I've got an excellent garden.
Very good. Yes, sir.
I got a good mother-in-law.
And she's here, huh?
Vegetable garden that used to be called a victory garden.
The victory garden. Very good. Mr. Pridgeon.
Over the weekend, I gathered together with 9,700 other Civil War reenactors, and we reenacted the 150th anniversary of the Battle of First Manassas. And through all that heat, we wore the wool, and we marched, and we fought, and we tried to remember the sacrifices of those Americans on both sides. And we did all that as individuals of our own free will.
Anything, Lowell? You're always thinking.
I'm thankful for health and energy. And like, same way with the garden. Yeah, except when the energy was cut off on Friday. But just like with the garden, I mean, you don't need the government in your health care, and you don't need the government telling you whether you can plant vegetables in your front yard either.
Now, okay, so good. Well, let's get a couple more positive things, then we'll talk about this. Somebody, why are you happy today? Yes, sir.
I'm thankful for the wonderful wife that I have and my 9 wonderful children.
Oh, that's very good. Sir.
I'm thankful for my 94-year-old dad, my 82-year-old mom, and they're buying a house. They just put in a contract minutes ago. So, trying to get them all on one level.
Very good. Very good. Yes, ma'am.
I'm thankful for my God. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Just awesome.
And you can say that, right? And you can say it without getting arrested. Somebody else back there.
The big thing is God's grace that judgment doesn't come tomorrow. Just thank God for His grace.
Everything that everybody here has said, I can think of one way or another the government is involved with it.
We're getting there. Somebody over here again. Come on. There's got to be thankful for something. We're thinking about things. Yes, Vicki.
I'm thankful that my son, my 16-year-old son, has his first full-time real job working in a machine shop this summer. He just got his first paycheck, and he is learning how hard it is to earn a living and the value of a dollar, which up until this point, that was easy to come by. Now, not so easy.
Now, how much of his paycheck did they take?
Well, I was they would deduct, which they didn't. So he'll have to fill out a, it's only 6.
So I'll have to write the check. That's even more painful.
But we
Yes.
kind of went over with that, and we're like, next year the government's going to take this much, and right now Daddy and I are going to take this much.
Right on.
Very good, Victor. Okay, well, where I'm going with this in the short term is we need to think, well, I'm trying to step on Derek's toes here, talking about liberty and the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, is we need to consider where our rights come from, right? Why can, in America, we have a garden? I traveled to Poland after high school, and there was a community garden in Poland that was a remnant of the Eastern Bloc, a remnant of the communism. And they told this community that they had to use this shared parcel of land, right? And nobody owned anything, but they had to work on it. And they never yielded any crops. People would come in the middle of the night and steal stuff, and it never was productive. And after the Soviet Union fell, when I visited, it was 15 years after that, vibrant garden with beautiful, colorful flowers and all kinds of vegetables and currant trees. Currants, we don't really have a lot of them here. The little berries. Delicious little berries, right? And they were giving them to me, right? Because they owned them and they could share them with me, right? What they got after the fall of the Soviet Union was the right to own property, right? So when we consider things that we're thankful for, we consider things that we cannot do, we're not allowed to do according to somebody else, whether it's a government or somebody, we have to consider what is a right and what is a privilege. We don't get rights from our government. Because if we decided that we were to get our rights from our government, as they used to get their rights from the King of England, with the stroke of a pen, with an executive order, they could be stricken from us. Right? You're allowed to get together and talk about liberty until I tell you otherwise. You're allowed to own property until the king wants it. Right? And that's what's important about the Bill of Rights of the United States Constitution. So when you have the opportunity, I think we might have some constitutions back here, flip through it and look at what these rights are. Right? Make sure you're looking at that. Now, politically speaking, we got through the good stuff. Now, what is on people's minds politically? Joe, what's on your mind politically?
Debt ceiling.
The debt ceiling. Is somebody else talking about the debt ceiling, or can I talk about the debt ceiling? Is Kirk here?
Kirk is going to be, but we can talk about it.
Joe's here from Congressman Harris. Oh, Kirk's here? Oh, there he is. Okay, good. Joe's here from Congressman Harris's office. And he's going to be telling us a little bit of update from the congressman on that. But what we're looking at now is a huge debacle of a fight about whether we should increase the amount of money that the United States government is allowed to borrow from investors. Right now it's $14 trillion, 14.1 or 14.3. When you're talking numbers that big, what's $200 billion? Really? And so the debate now is whether tax increases should happen or not. In addition to, should we only cut $2 trillion or should we cut $4 trillion? It's crazy. I can't follow it. Right? The last I heard from the president last night was, this is the responsibility of George Bush because he gave tax breaks. No, it's not funny. It would be funny if it was a joke, right? But this is what he says. He says it's still George Bush's fault. And what we need to remember here is that we have congressional representatives that work for us. We have 2 senators from Maryland that work for us. So what I encourage you to do is call them, and if they're ask what they're going to do on the debt ceiling. If they're going to do what you like to do, say thank you. If they're not, tell them to change their mind, right? I'm not telling you which way to go on that one. If you think we should raise the debt ceiling, that's great. But call them and tell them. What's the switchboard number, Pridgeon?
202-224-3121.
One more time, please. Write it down. Come on.
202-224-3121.
Thank you, Mr. Pridgeon. Call your congressman. Now, I've got an update on the petition, SB167. Right? We got 108,923 signatures. We needed to get 56,000 or so to get on the ballot. So instead of getting 3% of the people who voted in the last gubernatorial election, we got about 6%. question?
What was your phone number again?
Bridget,
Excuse me?
phone number, please.
202-224-3121. And the reason I know that number so well is I ride around in the work truck all day, and between service calls, that's usually what I'm doing. And I call every senator that you can think of.
So when they talk about on the news about the congressional phone lines getting tied up. Thank you. Has anybody here ever called their congressman or a congressman?
How many times a week?
If you haven't, consider it, right? They work for us. Congressman Harris's office, I mean, I think we're in the 1st district now, or are we in the 6th?
Yes.
We're in the 1st district. I mean, they don't yell and scream at you like you'd expect from some of them, right? They listen to you and they'll tell you what the congressman is going to do. If you disagree with them, they'll be cordial with you, and it's your responsibility to reach out to them. Congressman Rubersberger in my district might be less friendly, right? But we'll see. Okay, SB167, 108,923 signatures. People from across the state, activists worked on this. They're saying that 30% of the signatures that were validated, that was validated. That's 108,000 validated, right, Scott?
Yep.
How many more did we get than that? Another 20%?
We had altogether 163,000 signatures.
160,000 signatures were turned in. What's interesting about this process, the signatures, some of them were invalidated because the form was filled out incorrectly. Right? What Scott's telling me is about 45,000 were invalidated. I saw some of the names that were invalidated, and I know the people who collected those names. Some of them were people who used to hold elected office in Hartford County and other places like that. And what we found out through this process was that if you signed a petition and the petition was invalidated because the date wasn't written at the bottom, or somebody got their address wrong or something like that, if the whole sheet was stricken from the counts, you were not allowed to fill out another one. So like if there were 8 on a sheet and the signature on the bottom was done and your name was on the list of invalidated signatures, even if you still had a month left, you couldn't fill out another one. So as we face future referenda, we need to keep this in mind, that we might in the future not be able to afford throwing out 45,000 signatures, and we need to be sure that they get done correctly. Does anybody have any questions about SB 167 and what the next step is? What's the next step? No, not gay marriage. With SB 167. Pardon? Lawsuits. The ACLU is suing over this. I don't even understand. It's a meritless suit. It will be thrown out, right? But it's going to tie up money and time in the process. The next step for the referendum.
What's the basis of the suit?
So, the MD Petitions. The question was, what's the basis for the lawsuit? MDPetitions.com is the website that was set up by Delegate Neil Parrott from out in Frederick. And what happened there is you were able to go and you plug in your information, you plug in your name and your address, and it pulls it up from a database they had of all the registered voters, and then pre-printed that onto a document that you could print, sign your name, and drop it in the mail. The ACLU's contention is that because the name was not written by the individual and instead printed on the computer, that signature should be invalidated.
What I heard was that they're not going to pursue that lawsuit because even if it's successful, we still have more than enough.
Right. There were only like 15,000 signatures that way.
Futile, waste of money. So I heard they're not going to pursue it.
Okay, very good. Okay, so now the State Board of Elections has validated all these signatures. We needed to get 56,000. We got 108. Next step, it goes on the ballot in 2012. I still have yet to get an answer about what the language will be on the ballot, right? I have no idea. I have no idea what it's going to say. If anybody knows, get in touch with me and tell me, because I'm curious what it's going to say. Now, the proponents of SB 167 have already been out in force, and they've been advocating on behalf of, I don't know what the question is going to say. It's going to be to turn it down. So you're going to have to say no, I guess, on the bill. right? Whatever. So we don't know what the question is yet, but they've been going out and saying, they've been giving their talking points. This is an attack on children. These are Maryland taxpayers. Whatever. We need to be educating people from now until November 2012 about this issue, so when it comes up, they vote the way they actually feel. We don't want to lie to them. We want to make them vote the way they actually feel, not the way that they've been sold. What else?
Question.
Yes.
Did Castle and Maryland get access to all those names and that information?
The question about the names. He asked about the voter records of the people who signed the petition. Just like voter registration names and numbers, the information when you sign your name on a petition and it's submitted to the state for approval, it becomes public record that you put your name on the petition. Now, what that means is you can call up, or anybody can call up the State Board of Elections and request the list of people who signed the petition, and they will give it to you for 10 cents per thousand or something like that.
The reason I'm asking is I think people 30 days or whatever is out from an election need to confirm that their address and names and stuff has not been changed.
Very good. His point was that people who sign the petition need to make sure that they look to see what their voter registration address and name is. Make sure everything's valid on it before they go to vote again, because if they change something and they ask you for your address and it's not the same as what you tell them. The reason that's important, if you sign the petition and you gave a slightly different address, they would modify, the state modifies the voter record to that effect. Right? So if you said you moved across the street and you wrote that down on your thing, they modified your voter record. I guess they would mail you another voter card, though, if that changed. I don't know. I'll get back to you on that one.
I have one for it.
Yes?
One thing you have to keep in mind on this referendum is I don't want to be criticizing too much, but we have to get in touch with our church leaders so that they get on the same page with us.
Especially the Catholic Church.
Well, I don't want to say that.
The point was we need to reach out to our church leaders and get them to agree with us on this issue. And the reason he said this is because the Catholic Conference and the Catholic Archdiocese of Baltimore, or was it the region, they came out and they came out in support of SB167, asking the members of their church to not sign the petition, and if they had already signed it, to get their signatures taken off of the petition. Now, it's anybody's right to petition their church for redress of grievances the same way we can petition our government, but what I've seen nationwide is that the Catholic Church takes that position.
And if we make a mistake, we can always go to confession.
Any more questions about SB 167? Going? Okay, next issue we have, Governor O'Malley. That's the punchline in itself here, apparently. Governor O'Malley on Friday held a press conference in which he pledged his support for gay marriage in Maryland. What that means for us in Maryland is that if someone here were to decide that they do not support that, right? If the body as a whole or if the individuals within decide they do not support Maryland having gay marriage, right? Gay marriage. Marriage being expanded, the definition from between a man and a woman to two people, right? If that's something you decide that you do not support, we need to start talking to our legislators, and more importantly than that, we need to start talking to churches, right? When this comes up in the legislature, chances are it won't come up during the special session this fall, but it definitely will be presented this January in the regular General Assembly meeting. It's possible to have a referendum on that the same way it was for SB 167. The problem being, many of the people who oppose gay marriage are not registered to vote, being good church-going folk that feel that they don't need to be involved in the political process in order to make a difference in the world. So when you go to church, talk to your church-going peers and make sure they're registered to vote, right? There's going to be a push for that going forward to make sure that these people are registered. Because once you're registered, it takes 2 weeks to get on the rolls before you're able to sign something. Keep it in your mind. Keep it in your mind. Next. So redistricting. Redistricting, huh? Hey! Every 10 years, in line with the decennial census, we have to redraw, it's called reapportionment, the congressional districts in line with, well, population changes. The population nationally grew from 2000 to 2010, but people moved around and populations grew faster in some places than others.
Because of illegals.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, there's no differentiation between illegal immigrants and legal immigrants and legal residents.
Especially getting voter cards at the DMV.
Certainly. All right. So what we have in the United States is a bunch of states lost congressional districts. New York lost 2 congressional districts. Florida gained 2. Texas gained 4. Ohio lost 2 or 1. And it's a bunch of moving around. It's cool. It's good. It's the way it works. There's 435 people in the House of Representatives, so they take the total population of the United States divided by 435 and figure out that's how many people that's how many congressional districts each state should get. It makes sense, right? It makes sense the way we do that. But what doesn't make sense to me is the way that we redraw the lines in the state of Maryland. The Maryland State Constitution does not provide any guidance over how to redraw the Maryland congressional districts. Yes, sir?
It said it was supposed to be concise and compact.
Doesn't say that about the congressional districts. There's no, grab your Constitution. I looked it up yesterday. No, what it says is that the state legislature lines, the legislature lines need to be compact and whatever. But the congressional districts that they're going to redraw in the special session this October, there's no guidance, just that they need to be done. Where that leaves us. In Maryland, we'll take a step back. 21 states in the Union have a commission that redraws the lines. Some of the commissions are independent, some of them are nominally independent, but there's 21 states that have commissions that do it rather than the governor's office or the legislature. What you have there is awesome districts like in Iowa where the congressional districts are square. Like the corners are square along the county lines. And it's really cool. I showed you last month the Illinois congressional district that spans about 1 block over 7 miles and then a big population center. And we know what Maryland Congressional District 2 looks like in Maryland, where it starts in Havre de Grace, goes down to Baltimore. Doesn't go into the city though, goes around the city out to Towson and back down around to Annapolis. The reason the districts are drawn this way is because unlike these 21 states where they have a commission that draws districts, in Maryland, the governor's office, the Department of Planning, directly under the authority of the governor, draws these districts. Let that sink in, right? So, the governor's office draws these districts however he wants, and there's no constitutional restriction as to how they get drawn. What could possibly go wrong with that?
It works out perfect.
So what we have is a state in which the congressional districts are drawn according to the political whims of the party in power, specifically of the Democrat-in-chief. And what that yields is a congressional map where the people of Havre de Grace vote with Annapolis, where Harford County people vote in 3 different congressional districts, where we vote with Ocean City, where we vote with Frederick, and we sometimes vote with below Annapolis. It's crazy when you start looking at these maps. They were all done in 2001 and a half and 2002 by Paris Glendenning in his last year in office. He took it upon himself to draw. So at that time, before the congressional redistricting, there were 4 Republicans in the Maryland delegation to Congress and 4 Democrats. 4 Republicans and 4 Democrats. Their plan was to make it 6 Democrats and 2 Republicans. I talked to the guy who redrew the lines. He told me that was what he was tasked with doing. Right? He said that the governor told him, draw the lines such that 6 Democrats, 2 Republicans, because that's what we're going to do. So he did. And it worked out better because from 2008 to 2010 it was 7-1. Right? Before Andy got elected, Cradaville was in the 1st district and it was 7 Democrats to 1 in Maryland. Patrick, why are you telling us this? Because it doesn't have to be this way. It's done by law, and the Maryland legislature could pass a law to take the power back from the governor's office and give it to the legislature, or by some miracle, give it to an independent commission to draw the lines, not according to partisan voting people, where these people vote Democrat, so we'll draw them, the Baltimore City voters, to Ocean City. We won't take Montgomery County and draw that up to Hartford County to break up that conservative vote. But we're going to draw them according to geopolitical boundaries, city lines, county borders, and try to keep communities together. The problem with doing it the way that they do it now is that it makes it completely political, and there's no way that a person could represent their constituents reasonably when their district's 300 miles wide and half a mile deep. Compact districts make more sense. Now, what's your opportunity to tell people about compact districts? Who's heard about the redistricting hearings in Hartford County and Baltimore County? Anybody heard about these yet? Oh dear, that's not good.
Scott's going to talk about this.
Oh good, Scott's going to talk about that. Cindy's going to talk about Independence Day.
Are you ready?
I guess I'm ready. One more thing. Any questions? Please ask me questions. Sir?
I feel like the whole debt ceiling is a big distraction about Fast and Furious, because I'm furious about Fast and
That's
Furious.
an awesome topic. I wish, how well versed are you in
The whole
that?
Obama administration going after my Second Amendment, and then all of a sudden, the news, the alphabet channels cover nothing but the debt ceiling, which is going to be raised anyway, and it's all a distraction, because the holder and that whole
Hold on.
saying
I
he
need
knew nothing
2 minutes.
about it, they got to go down.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up. That's an awesome issue. That's an awesome issue. Okay, when you look back on President Clinton's time in office, what was the biggest scandal? The most important scandal during President Clinton's time in office? So you think that. That's cool. That's cool. Did you know that we were importing the Mujahideen into Bosnia, right? And we were training Al-Qaeda operatives when Clinton was in office? He was responsible for that, right? He was responsible for that.
Albania.
It's crazy. Yeah, in Albania. Yeah. Okay. So, looking back at Obama's presidency when it's over in a year and a half, what we're going to see, the biggest scandal coming out of his presidency is this gun. What are they? Fast and Furious is one thing they call it, and the other thing they call it gun walker, gun runner, Project Gun Runner. Now, very briefly, and I'll let you do your own research on this. What this is, the administration through the ATF, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Organization body. Huge. Their job is to enforce the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms laws, right? So it's a police force of their own, and they crazy. Point of the story is, they thought it was a good idea to go to the southern border of the United States and set up a program to sell guns to straw purchasers. A straw purchase is someone who's buying a gun and then is going to go do something else with it, sell it, or give it to, buying it on behalf of someone else. They thought it was a good idea to go do this on the U.S. border, and then so that these guns would then get shipped across the border to Mexico, used in crimes, and then we'd find out how they were getting there. We'd find the pathways that they went. The result of this has been at least 2 Americans' deaths, right? A border agent and a anyway, so, and the information is just coming down on this, right? They're saying that this command for this came from the top. It either came from the president or it came from the Attorney General Holder.
That's where it came from.
But it started during the Bush.
Did it?
Yes.
Oh, I apologize. I was not aware of that. Anyway. I'm speaking about something I do not know, and I apologize. Point of the story is, we need to make sure that this doesn't get swept under the rug with these debt ceiling negotiations. Ask your congressman, what are you doing to investigate the Attorney General? That's your job, to keep them accountable. Thank you for your time.
Good job, Patrick. All right, Patrick, I can't believe you would talk about things that aren't related to politics or education or liberty or the Constitution in your talk. That really disturbed me.